بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Sufyan Sadi Nothing But Facts live stream. It's a gorgeous Wednesday. It's the soup kitchen day. We are now feeding. We're now feeding people, having a dinner once a week. Our goal is to hit 7 times a week by 2030, and I think we're going to hit that goal. And it's going to be on 2 jumps. I think it's going to be 2 jumps. The first jump, because we can't just have a goal and not have practical measures how to get to that goal. So I think the first jump will be once we have tenants in the basement apartment, the domicile that we're getting, and April 28th is the day to come out for that, because April 28th we get all our, with the township and everything. So April 28th is the day to come out for that. We're going to, once we have people living in that basement, that's our extra rent. And that should be able to supply us 2 days. 2 days. And that takes us up to 3 days. Now, once you're at 3 days, now the next jump is a bigger jump, but you're already good. You're at 3 days. And if you got 3 days going down well, believe it or not, that jump I think is going to be easier than the 1 to 3. One was actually pretty easy to get 1 day in. Remember, me and Ryan were just walking around asking people to give the food. Once we got the food, we were just walking around inviting people in. And the first day of the soup kitchen, we had 9 people. That's it. 9 people showed up. One guy was disappointed. He said, I'm taking my donation elsewhere. I was like, you don't know anything about life. You literally know zero about life, right? You expect a full running soup kitchen in this dump that we inherited before we had fixed it all up and make it look really nice. I was like, okay, take your fulus and masalama. But you deal with a lot of that when you do this stuff. You deal with anything that you're building up. You deal with a lot of annoying behaviors. You deal with a lot of sometimes enemies. Definitely in the theology world, you have enemies for sure. Short-sightedness, like cluelessness, right? And within 1 year, we're at 100 a day, and now we're almost budging at 200 a day on Wednesday. So the 1 to 3 to me is going to be the biggest jump, right? And then from 3 to 7, I don't think it's going to be a hard jump. That's basically essentially going to be a full-timer and a part-timer, right? 1 full-timer and 1 part-timer. The full-timer will take one of the weekend days, and the part-timer will take the other weekend, because you can't deprive someone of both weekend days. So they'll split the weekend day. The full-timer will have 2 days off. The part-timer will work only 2 days and will take 2/5 of a salary. And then a fleet of volunteers. We literally have a fleet of volunteers. So that's how the soup kitchen works, and it's really, honestly, it's the best soup kitchen so far in New Jersey. And we're not even at 7 days a week. But the reason is, the dream and the vision is that it's not a jail soup kitchen. Come in, take a tray, and leave. You're poor. You don't deserve anything else. You don't deserve to be happy. Just take the calories, throw them put them in your stomach, and move on. Literally, when you go to some soup kitchens, they're operating in mass. That's how it's like a jail. I want our soup kitchen to actually be a restaurant. Like when we tear down the walls, I want to put tables, right? And they'll be like long tables for efficiency purposes. But it's a restaurant. I want the restaurant vibe. right? I want it to feel that people are in a Mexican restaurant. I don't want this vibe that you're some slave, prisoner, you know, like a school lunch or a jail. Here's the reason. I wouldn't want to show up to that. And we got to run it, right? We got to run it. But I would show up to a restaurant, right? So the restaurant may limit, it may have less people, but you can always take it to go. No one's obligated to sit there. If you want to sit, you can sit. But if you want to go, you can go. But it should not be, it should have the vibe of a restaurant and the look of a feel of a restaurant. It shouldn't be a jail. I want to discuss a question. A guy says, you in the Ash'ari Aqidah state, now we're not entering a feud here, just because some people, they have a sensitivity. And if we utter our position, oh, you're feuding. The other side utters their position, they're immature, they give them a break. You know, don't answer them. We're not answering, we're just answering a question. There's no feud here. We say that all actions are created by Allah, based on the Quran. خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Uthman, you listening to this? Because we have a special guest today. Well, I guess he's to me, he's special. But you've seen him before, right? He comes to you, by the way, no longer single. خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ, Allah says in the Quran. He created you and what you do. That means my lift this miswak, that's a creation of Allah. That means it didn't exist, now it existed. Allah brought it into existence. Okay. So the guy says, oh, a criminal would love the Ash'ari Aqidah. He says, because when he kills, he said, Allah created the killing. We say, and he's the sheikh, he said this, and he's mocking the Ash'ari Aqidah and trying to spread this nonsense that it's deviant. Then in that case, 75% of your ulama the last 1,000 years are deviants. So the answer to this is that you cannot confuse the difference between creation and moral responsibility. Okay? What do we have in terms of our responsibility and what are we bringing to the table? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's kasb. لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَعَلَيْهَا مَا اكْتَسَبَتْ. Allah says it very clearly. This aqidah is just based on two verses of Quran. خَلَقَكُمْ مَا تَعْمَلُونَ لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَعَلَيْهَا مَا اكْتَسَبَتْ. It has what it earns through kasb, not what it creates. What you earn. And it will be rewarded or punished for that. لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ, rewarded. وَعَلَيْهَا مَا اكْتَسَبَتْ, punished. So Allah Ta'ala defines kasb as the earning of moral praise or guilt by intention. You intend it. So we say for this, the creator creates the action, but the doer, based on his intention, earns the reward or the punishment. The morality is on the intender, the one who intends. That's the moral. There's no moral judgment on the creator. If the creator creates an entire world and kills them all in one day, there's no moral guilt on him. It's his creation. He can do what he wishes. The creator will never, ever be morally judged. Moral judgment is on the human, and it's on his intent. And the creator is the creator, Allah creates all of what you intend. That's the nature of this test of ours. He creates what we intend. And sometimes if it's good, if we intend something good and he creates it, we call that tawfiq. And we may intend something and he doesn't create it, that's protection, right? So I intended to commit sins and Allah didn't create it for me, such as, for example, he made me oversleep. So I missed my flight to Las Vegas or something like that, right? That's good, right? So that's good. That's protection. So or let's say I changed my mind. I'm not going to go to Las Vegas and gamble. No, I have a good deed. So the false assumption of this imam who was mocking the Ash'ari Aqidah on this point is he assumes that creation and moral praise or guilt are the same. They're not the same. So yes, Allah creates all actions, but humans through kasb, through intention, they either earn praiseworthy deeds. They're to be praised and rewarded, or they earn guilt. Uthman, is there anything else we need to say about this, or is it crystal clear?
Crystal clear.
If Waqas, after he's done and his eyes are stopped bleeding from how much he's looking at the screen producing the Ramadan series, when he's done, Waqas, if you're listening to this, if you can find a way to clip this in a short, and if not, then in a video, deleting anything excessive. All right, let's turn to our guest. Our guest today is our very own. Uthman, is your video on? Yeah, Uthman.
Just give me 1 minute. I don't know.
1 minute? No problem. No problem. No problem. All right. So if that's the case, let's give you some other updates. Our man Salman is in Syria because one of the live stream sponsors is GRT. We only have one live stream. We have two live stream sponsors. We have GRT and Ocean County Retina. He's just being nice, right? Because he's an eye doctor in Toms River, New Jersey. I mean, how many viewers are going to get their eyes checked in Toms River, New Jersey? But he's being nice. And we never mentioned the poor guy. Ocean County Retina. So if you want to get your eyes fixed, if you need LASIK, I think me and you look good in glasses. We'll stick with the glasses. But if you need LASIK, then you go to Ocean County Retina and tell him you're here from the Safina Society podcast. That's it. You won't get any discount, right? But just tell him. He'll get a kick out of it, right? But in any event, GRT is the other one. Now, GRT, our focus with them is Syria. Because we realized you want to be able to pick up all the candy from the candy store. But that's not the smart way to do things. The smart way to do things is to just focus. So we chose a focus. Our focus is Syria. And it's various different things in Syria. And our man Salman is now in Syria. And it's good to have a relationship with Syria. We already have a relationship with Yemen. And now we have a relationship with Syria. And the blessed ulama of Sham, hopefully in the future, will have a good relationship with them. Okay. As for the new government, I have no relationship with them, although I was invited to go to visit Syria. They invited me to go to Syria and visit it, but I haven't really gotten around to do that. Right. Nonetheless, what do you have for us, Omar, for GRT before we get to Salman? We have 30 seconds. I mean, get to Uthman. You put the link up? All right, khalas. Let's go to Uthman. Uthman, you ready? What's with Uthman's camera? Uthman, your camera's acting up? All right, there we go. Oh, I think he was making himself look handsome. Okay.
I had my fancy camera and
Oh, it didn't work?
not working.
Looking for a second.
All right, bring Uthman onto the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, Uthman, he's, by the way, he's now engaged. Salam. You know, there are benefits to coming onto the live stream. And he, وَلِيهَا فِيهَا مَآرِبُ أُخْرَى. Right? There are other benefits to this. And there are other uses for this. He got engaged, mashallah. He got engaged to somebody from the Ta'leef community. Am I allowed to talk about this stuff? But
Probably not.
Probably not, but it's a Safina Ta'leef connection over here, right? Ta'leef, yeah. And we never had relations with them. We never, but I know one of their guys is an ARKVIEW Medical Fix student. Yeah, they're Chicago head, so we do have some links with them, and he's been here too, I think. In any event, she's not from Chicago; she's from another part of it. Anyway, let's get out of that personal life and let's get to your website. Uthman is now a translating machine, and he is inviting you to be part of this. Uthman, take it away, and Omar, put up his website.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. First of all, thank you for squeezing me in at last minute for the live stream. Before I get into what the app is all about, I just want to give a little bit of context on where this app idea really came from, which was from a very, very long time ago. Growing up, alhamdulillah, like I was in a religious family, so I was surrounded by Quran and Hadith, and I went to Nur al-Iman school. one of the best private schools, Islamic schools in New Jersey, who are also raising money this Ramadan, by the way.
Country, I would say.
Yeah, in the country, alhamdulillah. And so I was blessed to grow up in that environment. But despite, no matter how good the environment is, knowledge is at a, all-time low. Wherever you go, you'll find very righteous and pious people. But unfortunately, and this is one of the signs at the end of times, that knowledge is becoming less and less. And growing up in America, you feel very disconnected from the rest of the Islamic or the Muslim community, the Muslim world, and also cut off from the tradition as well. And that feeling never really went away until a few people came into my life who kind of opened my horizons in terms of what Islamic scholarship is all about. And the first one was one of my history teachers who went to Nur al-Iman school. And later on, very shortly after, was actually yourself, Dr. Shadee, when I was like in high school or middle school when you first came to the New Jersey community. And you showed firstly my brother, and then later on myself as well, and the rest of the community what scholarship is all about, and connecting a group of people who were previously disconnected to the Islamic tradition, teaching them about what these meanings actually are. That our tradition is far more expansive and far more broad and far more prepared to answer the challenges of modernity and the world that we live in today than most people give it credit. And for example, exposing us and teaching the community things related to Aqidah and Arabic and Nahu and Sarf and Fiqh and Tasawwuf and all of these Islamic sciences. But despite that, something remained, which is why, alhamdulillah, it's not enough just for you to go, and sit in the company of the scholars. But one thing is that when you sit in the company of scholars, you have this idea and this notion that maybe I should, learn by myself as well. And then, alhamdulillah, there's a journey, last time I came on the podcast, I talked about my time in Algeria, which was very short, but very blessed, alhamdulillah. And it's been a journey. But one thing that I was always really, really obsessed with, that no one was really able to give me a lot of guidance on until we finally formed Dar al-Fath, was the Islamic written tradition itself. So we had a lot of the ingredients, we had the scholarship, we had the general ideas of what exactly ilm is all about. But one thing, for example, that I would always see is that in all these videos of these mashayikh and things like that, they would have a library behind them, very much like this here, behind me now, alhamdulillah. And no one would really talk about what's in that library. And I didn't speak Arabic. I didn't read Arabic at that time, other than at a very rudimentary level. But I was always obsessed with what is in these books. And no one was really able to give a clear answer on, it's not clearly, it's more than just tafsir. Clearly, it's more than just hadith. So what exactly is contained in these books? And after Dar al-Fath came into fruition, alhamdulillah, and learning Arabic and things like that, I was finally able to start tapping into a very small percentage of the Islamic tradition. But what I came to realize and recognize, as pretty much everyone knows who's in ilm today, who's teaching in America, is that there's no translations out there. Would you agree or disagree about that?
Yeah, translations are usually the maximum you're going to get is a chapter. Right. If you want a classical book, they usually don't translate the whole book. They'll translate a snippet, a chapter, like a teaser almost. We have teasers. Yeah.
And if something is going to be translated, first of all, I would estimate that maybe 0.1% of our Islamic tradition has been translated in any language, let alone English. English is probably far less. Maybe the most is in Farsi or Urdu or something like that. But in English, there's virtually nothing that has been translated beyond the Quran, beyond some collections of hadith, some books of fiqh. Many of them are modern, from the past 100 or 200 years, like fiqh as-sunnah and these type of books. And then in terms of the actual classic tradition, there's very little, if anything, that's out there. And this is incredibly frustrating for someone who grew up as a very avid and voracious reader, where anything that I wanted to look up, in any science other than Islam, I could have looked it up. I could have, gone to the library if I wanted a
Mm-hmm.
physical copy. I could have looked, something up on Wikipedia, but it was frustrating, incredibly frustrating that I couldn't go and look up an answer when a scholar wasn't available to me. And this would happen, and this happens to so many people today. Just ask the ARKVIEW students, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that how difficult is it to actually get access to a scholar who can consistently answer your questions
Mm-hmm.
on a timely fashion. And this was something that I faced as well, that I have a fiqh question, the time for salah is running out, and I need to know whether I can combine or not. I don't need an entire fiqh lesson.
Yep.
I need to know is just a quick reference on what is that threshold after which I can combine. And so many different examples of this. Or, for example, that there's so many books that are not being taught by teachers that aren't necessarily, you don't have to study them with a teacher. For example, mantiq, or the study of formalized logic, is a text that people, it's a discipline in the Islamic sciences that many of the ulama have studied by themselves. For example, Sheikh Nader Abu Umar from Dar al-Funun in Turkey, Sheikh Murad's teacher. Sheikh Murad told us that Sheikh Nader said that he never actually studied mantiq at a deep level with his mashayikh. He actually did, that as mainly as self-study from reading the books and reading their commentaries, and he studied it by itself.
Yeah, because mantiq is not a transmitted science; it's a self-evident science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so much more out there. Biographies, right? You're not going to find a teacher for every text.
Yeah.
Right? Your teachers are going to teach you the main texts, like in aqidah, in fiqh, in tasawwuf. They'll give you the keys to understanding things in Arabic. And then the rest of it, largely, it's upon the student of knowledge to be learning by themselves. So that's where Sharh came from. And as I started teaching for Dar al-Fath more, and as I started discussing with the Dar al-Fath teachers, this problem was very much exacerbated by the fact that we're trying to teach these books, and we're trying to teach these classical texts in Dar al-Fath, and trying to make this institute of classical knowledge. But for most students, their Arabic wasn't there in the beginning where they could access these texts. For example, like right in front of me, I have a text, Jawharat al-Tawheed. This is an Arabic copy of Jawharat al-Tawheed. You could buy it in Egypt from Dar es-Salaam for like 25 cents or something like that. And initially, the first year that we did Dar al-Fath, we thought that that was enough, actually. A little bit naively, we thought that, well, if we give students a text like this, we'll buy the text so they don't have to go and deal with these Arabic bookstores and whatnot. Yep. We'll put this type of text in their hand, and we'll teach. And since the teacher is going to be going through the text word for word, and they're going to be studying, Nahu and grammar and morphology and other classes in Dar al-Fath, that they'll be able to piece things together. And over the past 3 years, we realized that the majority of students are not at that level yet. What they need is a middle period where they're, weaning themselves off of translation, and they're, like they need better resources, or they need supplementary resources. For example, I'm studying Usul al-Fiqh. Maybe I'm studying a book like Al-Waraqat, a very famous book in Usul al-Fiqh, but I want to read more about this topic. And my teacher is only available for an hour and a half a week, right? And he's very busy doing important things in the community, and I'm not able to ask him questions.
Yep.
So all of this kind of amalgamated into a desire to, bring Islamic scholarship to the fingertips of Western and American and English readers. So that's where Sharh came from. So
it's called Sharh. And what's the website?
SharhApp.com.
I'm going to look on it. SharhApp.com. And it's an app too, right?
We're working on the app right now, but it functions exactly like an app. And there's actually a way that you could bookmark it on your iPhone where it looks like an app. So SharhApp.com.
Do you have to hit www before it or what?
No, just SharhApp.com. It should show up.
You must. I think you have to put something in front of it.
1 sec. I'll text.
Try it.
And Omar, if you don't mind putting it in the chat.
This live stream, for those who are just joining us, has a couple intentions. We've had the same intentions from the start, from when I was even doing it from my house. One of the intentions is to introduce people to the world of knowledge. That's the first intention. And then hopefully to get them to start their journey of knowledge. And I cannot tell you how many thousands of people have started. Like I've always said, I'd love to do these live stream, but when you're successful, it's an added benefit. Like we've had a lot of success. A lot of people start studying. That's the first thing. The second thing is at-tasawwuf and the stories of the awliya. The third thing is really part of the first one is contemporary issues, masail, in aqeedah or in fiqh. The fourth, mostly kalam, aqeedah. The fourth thing is affairs of the ummah. Right, and fire up Omar the website so people could start seeing, and Omar and Uthman start giving us a sharh, since it's a Sharh App. Start giving us a sharh of this website. Take it from the top, Omar.
Yeah, if you could just scroll to the top, Omar.
Right, scroll to there you go.
Yeah. So this is the homepage, and like I said, this is a translation app, and the idea here is to translate books, very simply put. One of the other frustrating things on why this app was made was because one of my friends who was another student of knowledge talked about how frustrating it is to use PDFs. So even in the situation where a PDF might be present, the book might have been translated. First of all, books, especially in English, are expensive, and a lot of students don't have the funds to afford basic books. So they use PDFs, but PDFs are, difficult to use. You can't annotate them, and, they're a little bit behind. They don't give you the full learning experience. So Omar, if you scroll down and just select a book at random, you can see these different books that are here, just to show the viewers what the app looks like.
This is really good. Abdurrahman al-Fasi, Abu Imran al-Fasi.
This is Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Fasi.
Abdul Qadir al-Fasi.
This is his compendium in Usul al-Fiqh called Khulasat al-Fasi.
Amazing. And you translated it.
Yes. And so the entire text is translated here. And on the left side, for people who have these type of preferences, some people, you could change these things around. And the commentary is largely written by the translator as well. So, for example, if you don't want to be distracted, if you hit the switch on the bottom, Omar, where it says hide commentary, and you don't have to be distracted by it. So this idea here is based on what a lot of the mashayikh say. For example, Sheikh Said Foda, I believe he says this, that when you're studying a text, first you should just study the text itself. Don't read the footnotes, don't read the commentary. And then after that, if you need to get some clarification, then refer back to the footnotes or the commentary. So I wanted to integrate this into the experience itself. So you could read it, unaided, undistracted by the commentary or by the footnotes. Then you could bring it back as well. And you could change the font settings and all that good stuff as well. So I just wanted to show what this really looks like here. So Omar, if you could just go back to the page over here. And a couple of things that we learned along the way. But if you go to our story, we talk about a little bit about what the goals of this app are, if you scroll to the top. And generally, the idea of this app is to give people access to the Islamic written tradition. But it represents so much more than just that. Because, for example, nowadays, not only do is a translator competing with the attention, for the attention of people with other translations and YouTube videos and things like that, we're actually competing with AI now. Because everyone seems to think that I can just copy and paste something. I could go to like shamila.com and I can copy and paste Arabic text into ChatGPT or into Claude AI or Gemini, and it'll spit out a perfect translation. And I invite all the users here, for those who know a little bit of Arabic and can verify, I invite you to try that. And what you'll find is that it's incredibly ineffective in its current state, because the Arabic texts are written in a way that they don't actually lend themselves to non-specialists. So what I mean here is that a lot of books are written in code, meaning that they're very terse in their structure, in their vocabulary. They're very terse. They expect that you already have a wealth of knowledge previously. They use a lot of pronouns, dama'ir, instead of actually using the word itself. So, like, for example, this is in Mukhtasar Khalil. It's everywhere, right? One of the seminal texts of the Maliki madhab, where he'll say it, right? Like he'll say like, he'll use a dhamir, like something like that, and he'll actually be referring, it refers to something 3 pages ago.
Yeah, and he literally also has a code in the beginning of the book. You can the intro gives you the code that he's using.
Exactly.
Yeah, when he says like them too, or when he says he, or when he says the sheikh, all those are like codes going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these are things that I'm not saying so that this ages well. I'm not saying that AI is incapable of doing it, but in its current state, it's not capable of doing it.
There's something else I'd like to add to that. That terminology differs from subject to subject.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
From one discipline, the same word can be used. Another discipline, for example, the word fiqh, the word sunnah in fiqh and usul will have a different meaning.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
exactly.
how is AI going to know that? AI is not going to be able to know that.
Exactly. And not even that, it'll differ in texts themselves. For example, two very important texts written around, I believe, 100 or 150 years apart from each other. Not that long. One text is the Mukhtasar of Ibn al-Hajib, Jami' al-Ummahat, in Maliki fiqh, and then the other is Mukhtasar Khalil. And in these two texts, both of them have almost exactly the same purpose of summarizing the madhab, but they use the same terminology. For example, a term like al-Azhar, right? They'll use it differently in the Mukhtasar of Ibn al-Hajib and the Mukhtasar of Imam Khalil. And in fact, you'll find that even PhD researchers are unable, unless they're specialists in Maliki fiqh who have studied at the foot of scholars, right? Of like true ulama, like the likes of the ulama like Sheikh al-Maghili, who we talked about last time, or Sheikh Muhammad al-Hassan al-Khadim, who's still alive today in Mauritania, Sheikh Mukhtar Bah in Mauritania as well. These ulama who have carried the tradition, unless they sat with these ulama for a long amount of time, they wouldn't be able to pick up on these intricacies. And of course, I myself am not able to pick up on all these intricacies, but it's very difficult to find qualified translators.
And I'd like to add to the reason for that is that the origin of Islamic scholarship is that it's a living tradition from human to human.
Right.
And when humans are writing a book for someone who will read it with another human, then he could actually write in summarized code like this, right? And he could have his own terminology, because the expectation is that you're going to read this. You can read it on your own, but you always have some human to refer back to explain what the teacher meant.
Right. Yeah, that's incredibly, incredibly important. That human connection that's there, which is why, for example, all of these, which we'll go over in a second, I'll just show the list of the different projects that we've been working on. But if, all of these texts have been done by a human being, which is myself for now, and we have other works that we've done, I'll get to that towards the end, on other collaborators who want to work on this project with us. But all of these are done by humans. And another thing that's unique about this app and unique about our translation method is 3 things. Firstly is a selection process, because of the fact that commercially, many of these books that I've selected to translate are not going to be commercially successful books if I were to publish them. Because there's a niche audience who wants to, for example, learn usul al-fiqh these days. And the ones that want to learn it are, pretty quickly they're going to move on to Arabic, or they're going to be studying it in a university setting, and go in a completely opposite direction. But what about Muslims like myself, right, who are just average Muslims who want, are literary, right? They read about other things, that they should also be able to access the Islamic written tradition in the same way that I'm able to access any other tradition as well. There should be resources that are out there. So the selection process, we have such an incredible selection of books that are out there. Just in front of me, for example, I also have a bookstore at ummaspot.com that you guys can check out. But, I have hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of texts just like this. These are small little texts, little mutun, little rasail that, are just ready to be translated about incredibly important topics that are relevant to us today. And they're maybe 15 pages long, 20 pages long sometimes, but it might be something that's incredibly important. For example, I have a text here, written about the fatwa
Mm-hmm.
on triple divorces, for example. And you can't write an entire book on it per se, but it's a research paper or it's a risala that is just on this niche topic that either it's going to be floating around as a PDF if someone is kind enough to translate it and put it out there. But why are we not collecting these resources and putting
Yeah.
them together and creating a repository? Because these are never going to be published unless they're published in some journal or something like that, which is very rare, unfortunately, for Muslims today.
So this is really good. I'm looking at how it's written, and you have literally line by line.
Right.
And so someone could copy and paste. And
Right.
Firstly, Jack of all trades is saying this is a brilliant idea, bro. They said this idea is genius. And somebody else is asking a question. What's your opinion on throwing it through AI and then fixing the mistakes? What do you believe? What's your belief about that?
So I've seen it being done before, but every translator is going to have a different approach to this. For example, for myself, I completely stayed away from AI because I'm a student of knowledge. I'm not a sheikh or anything like that. And because of the fact that I don't have a repertoire when it comes to the quality of my translations. But when you have a very seasoned translator, like Sheikh Musa Ferber or Sheikh Mahdi Lak or something like that, where AI would be an excellent tool for someone like them to use. But me personally, I stayed away from it, even though I recognize its values. And for example, what I'll use it for is if I'm looking for a particular word in English, like there's a word in Arabic, an example of like a word like ihtimal or ihtimalat,
Yes.
right? That like haml has this meaning of carrying, right? But of course, ihtimal doesn't mean to carry something, even though it kind of does. What it really means, like an ihtimal, is like an implication. So what I might use AI for is that I might say, what's a word that carries this connotation in the English language of these couple of feelings together and these couple of meanings together when I'm not able to find the correct word for it.
Yeah.
But AI can help with so many other things. So if you scroll to the top of the page, Omar, you're going to see that there's a search bar. And this is an incredibly powerful search feature because not only is this going to be searching the Arabic and the English, it's also going to be searching by keywords, and it's going to be searching the notes, the author name, everything about the book. So you could put, you could try out whatever you want to try out, Omar, and you could see how this works. And so you see from 72 different results from 8 different books that are out there on this word action. And this is going to be picking up not only from the text itself, but also from the notes and so on. And what you can also do, which makes this a very powerful research tool, is that if you were to just select one at random, you can also bookmark it on the top left where you see for each line, you see that bookmark icon. Yeah, it's going to tell you that you need to log in, but you could just log in and you could save all of your bookmarks, which makes this a very powerful tool for people who are writing, who are doing research and things like that. And the reason why I put this one in is because my sister, she's in law school and she was doing a paper on human dignity. And she needed to find, some sources related to usul al-fiqh that were related to, like human dignity and, the concept of good and evil and things like that in Islam. And, I realized that, well, even though I have these books that are completely translated for her, it's very difficult for a researcher to use these without bookmarks. So the bookmarks are a very powerful feature and very highly requested by some of the users.
I have a question for you, Othman. Su'al.
Yes.
If a researcher is using this app, do you provide the actual citation information of the book that you're translating? So how is he going to cite it?
So there's various ways on citing digitally accessed sources like this. So it would fall under, one of those, depending on which format that you're using. But what we're working on right now is actually creating a knowledge base on how to use the app itself. So for example, how do I make my own translations? So for example, I can actually create my own translation projects if I create a account and I register for free. If you go back to the homepage and you go to my projects on the left side, yep. And you can actually create your own collection of books of your personal translations. So a researcher can use these. So all of these different things, inshallah, within a matter of a couple of weeks, we're also going to have a tab on the left for tutorials on how you can best use this resource and how you could take advantage of it. But one point that I was trying to make earlier was this search feature. If we were able to integrate AI into it for semantic search, for root words, and things like that, and some of the users, anyone who logs in and makes an app, they get an email saying join a private Telegram group where I talk to the users. Right now, it's like 25 users who took me up on the offer, and it's like a case, like a focus group, where anytime a user has a idea or a feature idea or a bug fix or something like that, there's a little community that we're beginning to develop of people they can suggest these things. So some of my, some of the members who are using the app, they've already given amazing suggestions for, different AI tools that can help expand the capabilities of this, repository. But the problem is that all of these, they cost money, of course. To use AI or to do all of these things, it costs you every time you make a request. You're going to be charged, a couple of cents and things like that.
Okay, let me give you some questions from the audience. Is it limited to the Maliki madhab? But
No.
by the way, if it was, you should not use the word limited. You're lucky to be having the Maliki madhab. The whole world is. And but I understand the gist of the person's questions. He wants to know if there's going to be other texts and other madhahib there.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And yes, the answer is there needs to be all four madhahib that are represented here. And, in the past few years, I've actually interacted with a lot of, phenomenal translators. And, most of them are tulab ilm, who translate texts in Hanafi fiqh, Hanbali fiqh, Shafi'i fiqh, and the other sciences as well, like Maturidi Aqidah. For example, one of our very own, Sheikh Murad, is a translator of books in Maturidi Kalam. And what we need to do right now, as you can see, I have, most of these, or actually all of these, are my personal translations. But there's a lot of people who want to work with us who are translators in their respective fields. And some of them are even experts in their fields. We have, for example, one of the contributors who does some of the editing. He did a little bit of the editing work for Al-Murshid Al-Mu'in, was Sheikh Muhammad Ali, who's a doctoral student from Georgetown University, who's one of the leading experts in Maliki fiqh today. We have other scholars who have also joined. For example, our own Sheikh Murad Benavides, Sheikh Murad Uthman from Dar al-Fath, and other contributors across the world. But in order for us to actually make it worth it for them, we need to actually be able to support them as well. It's not enough. For example, the original idea for this app was that we actually want to be able to give authors a additional revenue stream as well. That if people are reading your books, even if you're not publishing them, because publishing a book might take 2 years before you get a publishing deal, or you might be publishing, like you might translate something that no one wants to publish because something in usul al-fiqh or in logic or mantiq or like falsafa, one of these very niche topics that maybe there's 150 English readers in the United States who are reading something like this. So what we wanted to actually do as we're working on this project is to almost turn it into a Patreon for translators and to support them. For example, Sheikh Musa Ferber, an incredible translator, has very publicly voiced his frustrations with he has a Patreon, so he has a Telegram, and he has a Patreon where people can support him. And Patreon, I believe, is taking like 30% of like commission on subscribers and things like that. And that's, first of all, it's,
That's a lot.
a lot of money.
It's too
And
much.
in addition to that we see on a, near daily basis, look at the, problems that LaunchGood is having right now, where
What problems are you talking about?
they're constantly being debanked and deplatformed, where LaunchGood works with different banks and things like that, and they'll just randomly get messages from these banks out of the blue that we will not bank with you anymore and to empty out your account.
And why is that? Because of what? Their Palestine views or what?
For Palestine, and just for being Muslim. I mean, it's not easy out there today. And so if we use, for example, Patreon or these non-Muslim secular platforms, we're constantly at risk for, getting booted off of these platforms. What if, for example, someone wants to translate a important text in the Muslim tradition that is considered controversial by Western standards? And they're at risk. Say, for example, they try making a Patreon campaign, a LaunchGood campaign, a GoFundMe to support one of these projects. Then it turns out that this book is deemed Islamophobic or offensive or something like that. And now, all of that money, all of that funding and that support that they had, and not even just that, just the emails and the contact information of the subscribers who supported the project, it's gone. Which is why we need to have homegrown platforms as well.
I have a question for you. In that case, right now, is this website free for people to use, or they need to subscribe?
It's completely free.
It's completely free, and you're relying on their donations.
Yes, and server costs and hosting costs, they're not cheap by any means. And to grow this platform and to bring new contributors onto the platform, it's not cheap, and it does cost money. Against common belief, like most of these scholars and students of knowledge, I'm telling you, they're not riding, they're not driving Mercedes and Ferraris and things like that. They really need our support, and they need to be incentivized to continue the good work that they're doing. That it can't be that they put all of this time and this effort into teaching the Muslim community and supporting the Muslim community and really trying to do the Fard Kifaya, the communal obligation of giving the Muslim community access to their own tradition. Because if you're a Muslim, you actually have a right to this tradition. It's not a privilege, it's actually a right. That this is the wiratha, this is the inheritance of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't, right, as he said, that he didn't give and leave behind dirahim and dinars, right? That it's not money, it's knowledge. And this knowledge it doesn't belong to a few publishing companies. It doesn't belong to a few scholars or a few individuals. And it doesn't, it belongs to the Muslims in general. And unfortunately, what we see is that there's a lack of support that's out there for scholars and for students of knowledge who are willing to go down, the path that's less traveled. That not every scholar is going to have the ability and have the strengths, for example, to be an amazing public speaker who can draw a audience of 300 people, 400 people, 500 people, and get their money through fundraisers or speaking engagements or things like that. Some are a lot more comfortable and are incredibly talented at translating or at teaching or at writing their original works. But the thing is that we're not supporting them and we're not incentivizing them to continue their work. That very, very often I'll hear of stories of students of knowledge, both in the Muslim world, from who are Arab or are in the Desi world. Just yesterday, last week, there was a young brother whose name, and he goes to NBIC actually. I don't want to put him on blast, but you're not going to be able to find him on LinkedIn anyways. His name is Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari. He was named after the famous Egyptian scholar Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari.
Egyptian, and of course, Sheikh Murad will tell you he's Circassian originally.
Yes. He was named after him, and he had studied and completed his Alamiya program when he was 17 years old, and now he's working, a professional job. because of the fact that there's no money out there, there's no support out there for young طلاب علم. But maybe with a project like this, we could, really make a difference.
Yep.
Who knows? And there's so many stories that I hear about this, that people, they'll study for 4 or 5 years, then they'll come back and, they won't be able to find any support for their projects, despite the fact that they are the most brilliant minds of today, not only in their respective, in ilm, in Islamic knowledge, but they're incredibly brilliant in general by any standard, and they're not being supported. So one of the very primary goals of this project is to provide support for people like that.
Makes sense. All right, so let's summarize. This is free because it's the inheritance of the ummah. It's the Prophet's inheritance. It's for the ummah. Number 2, we hope for people's decency to donate to it. This is like Wikipedia almost, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, it is all 4 madhabs. And as we say at Safina Side and what we teach, Ahl Sunnah comprise of 4 madhahib in fiqh, 3 madhahib in aqidah, Hanbali, Ash'ari, and Maturidi. In fiqh, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. And I'm sure you have other subjects too. You're going to have other subjects such as maybe in Sirah or something like that. I'm sure that. Now, here's a superficial question. If it is translations, why is it called Sharh App? Sharh means explanation, but it's not explanation, it's translation. So that's a question here from one of the viewers.
So one reason why we select this name is because of the fact that a lot of these translations, they actually require explanation as well. So that's a lot of these that even though I hate doing it, because who am I as this kid living in America, completely disconnected from the Islamic tradition? Who am I to footnote and commentate on these on the works of these scholars? But usually when you're translating to a different language, it's not enough just to do a literal translation. A lot of times you actually need to provide context as well. So to explain a text is sharh, which is why we call it that. So I know that it's probably time to wrap up. But if, Omar, you go through these texts, if you just scroll down a little bit to show the viewers the different texts that are out there, you'll also see that there's various categories that are there. And what you'll also notice, right now it's Maliki fiqh, but we want to have the other 4 madahib and Maturidi aqidah. But what you'll notice is that the texts that are currently out there are nearly enough to have an entire 4-year part-time program curriculum. And that's where the idea actually came from. That most of the texts that I translated here, the intention is to go ahead and to use them in Darul Fat. For example, my students in ARKVIEW, we use this on a weekly basis. We use, whenever I'm teaching, I use the app. I pull it up on I screen share, and I pull it up on my computer for Al-Murshid Al-Mu'in for Maliki Fiqh, and they follow along with this text using Sharh App. And these other texts that we have in Aqidah, Maliki Fiqh, Mantiq, Usul al-Fiqh, and it's a carefully curated set of texts that is actually designed to be a curriculum for the first 2 years of a full-time program or the first 4 years of a part-time program. And constantly we're growing this library of texts. For example, you'll see that Taqrib al-Wusul by Ibn Juzay, an incredibly important text. You'll see that it's near complete. So inshallah, the intention was to finish it during this Ramadan. Not sure if it will be finished. It's been a year or more since I started working on this text. Under normal circumstances, if I had started working on a book like this, readers might not have been able to read this, for another 4 or 5 years if it was even published.
It's
but
so
now,
frustrating. It's
incredibly
so frustrating. Yeah.
And one idea on why this is the case, on why I did this, is actually because of something that I found from your works, which was that when you first started teaching at NBIC and started the Wayland program, you had those course booklets, right? And I was just going through my brother's stuff, through his notebooks and things like that, and I found selections that you had translated from Qadi Iyad's Tartib al-Madarik.
Yes, yes.
On the biography of Imam Malik and his companions. And I saw this and I was like, wow, I didn't know that Dr. Shadee worked on this. And the more you talk to any scholar, you're going to find that the majority of scholars actually tried their hand at translation,
Yep.
and they have a couple just sitting on their hard drive,
Yep.
and they either never completed it, even though it's usable, it's workable, but there's just nowhere to put it. Where are you going to put a half-finished Word doc or something like that? But on a platform like this, you could just put it up there, and if you're a scholar or a student of knowledge who wants to do it and you don't have the time to do it, send it to me. I'll put it up there, right? That I'll go manually, line by line, a word for word, and I'll put it up there so that the rest of the Muslim community can actually benefit from your work, and you can reap the rewards and get that sadaqah jariyah as well. And I'll take the time to do it. And I don't know if anyone will take me up on that offer, but the offer is open for anyone who has these works. If they don't have the time to do it themselves, even though the software is very easy to use, I do all of my work on the software, but I could do it for you.
I'm telling you, it's a brilliant idea, because a person comes up with translation. It's very tedious. It's very difficult. On top of that, you're going to face a very long time lag to publish it, and no money at the end of the day. So that's why people are just going to give up on it, right? And the only people who are going to do this is someone who comes up with a scheme that avoids that. And this is one of them. Make it out there, available for everyone. And we're living in a copy and paste world, right? We're living in a world where if I read something, I want to share it right away.
Yeah.
If I read a line, Omar, can you put Uthman up so I could see what he's, yeah, there you go. Thank you. We're living in a world, if I read a line, I either have to take a picture of it. I'm going to share it with my friends within minutes, right?
Yes.
That's the world we live in. You could do that with this app. When you read a line, you could post about it, you could share it. Whereas so it solves that problem. And I think by constantly reminding people, we're giving you something for free, give something back from yourself, that's the way to go, in my opinion. Because if you try to make an economy with this and make ends meet in a capitalistic way, it won't happen. It's too niche.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Let's take some other questions here. Will you upload already translated texts that already exist? I guess not, because he's got to have the rights to it, right? You can't, unless they give you the rights to it. They're not going to do that, right?
Anyone who wants to do that, bismillah. Yeah. For example, a lot of texts after 5 or 6 years, when they go out of print, those are, texts that they deserve to be republished and, distributed with people. So those type of texts, as long as the author has the legal rights, they are more than welcome to be putting them up here. And that's one of the other things that we want to focus on as well, that some of these out of print, like, for example, I found a text by the same author as Khulasat al-Fasi, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Fasi. He wrote a book called Al-Fiqhiyya. And in this shipment of books that we got, of used books from Spot, we had thousands of books that came in, and I just found a copy of a translation of this book Al-Fiqhiyya, which is a entire text in Maliki fiqh. And the funniest part is that I couldn't even find an author's name for the text. Someone had translated it probably in the 70s or the 80s. Maybe someone on the live stream knows where it came from, but someone had translated it and completely lost and forgotten, and it was just sitting in like an Azhar archive somewhere. Wow. And I don't know anything about the text, but I would love to put it up. If there's an author, and there's so many books that are like this, and they're just collecting dust somewhere.
Are you putting the text up after you finish the whole thing, or chapter by chapter?
Chapter by chapter.
See, that's good too. Isn't live streamed right now? Nobody does this thing where you finish the whole thing and then you put it out there. Life has changed, right? All of life is live streamed right now. The presidency is live streamed, right?
Yes.
The even Broadway shows, which used to be in the entertainment business the most polished show, you can track the life cycle. They're literally broadcasting the life cycle of the show. Like, I just recently saw an advertisement. Someone showed me that they're advertising for anyone to walk in and audition to a show. They never used to do this before. Literally, the back end is now live streamed. The back end of someone's work progress. Uthman, maybe what you do is you set up yourself a Twitch account with you just translating. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of weird people in the world, right? There's enough weirdos in the world. They're like, oh, let's watch the sheikh translate, right? And then let's look at what he posts. The world is really weird, but I think this makes total sense. Chapter by chapter, he's translating. He's putting it up. Nobody's going to read the whole book anyway at that time, right?
Yeah.
So it does make sense. This model and this approach makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and this is perfect for teachers
Yep.
who are teaching a text and they can't, like, they want to translate it, but they can't translate it all at once. So every week they translate the section that they're going to teach to their students and do it week by week. And that's actually how I translated Ibn Ashir. There's actually some pretty good translations of Ibn Ashir that are out there, but I didn't have rights to them and I didn't want to share them with the students. I wanted to give the students an actual copy that they can use. So I didn't want to like infringe on anyone else's, copyrights. So I just said, I'm teaching this book on ARKVIEW every week, and I'll just translate 10, 15 lines every week. And within one semester, the book got translated. And the work that Sheikh Harun Saleh has done in Maliki fiqh, for example, he did the same thing with a much larger text called Al-Muqaddimah Al-Izziyah by Sheikh Ali Al-Manufi Al-Shadri. And he also did the same thing and is continuously doing the same thing for a text called Qaribat al-Masalik or Mukhtasar al-Amrusi in Maliki fiqh as well. And that's a very large text, relatively large. And he's translating it week by week and sharing it with the Dar al-Fath students. So it's very, very useful because I don't have to translate the entire text and I don't have to constantly tell the students, check the Google Docs, I just updated it and things like that. It's very clunky. This is very straightforward. Every day, just, whenever there's class, just log in and you'll see the new updates.
And let me tell you this too, that the very big works, the mutawwalat, as they call them, the chapter is a book, right? And I'm thinking to translate for you something actually.
Yeah.
Chapter on Ridda, what puts a person out of Islam, by a Dasuqi.
Yes.
Just Dasuqi's commentary on that. Dasuqi comments on Ahmed al-Dardir, who comments on Khalil.
Yeah, that would be an incredible idea. And this is something that I'd already wanted to do, which is like these huge mutawwalat that are out there, these 10, 15, 20 volume books. One person can't translate it, right? Like, for example, you yourself can't translate it. I had this idea. I floated it around to some classmates and some people, maybe by saying it publicly. Some of the viewers can put pressure on these mashayikh, but why not a book like the one that you mentioned, like Hashiyat al-Dusuqi, right? We have plenty of mashayikh that are out there. Yourself, Sheikh Yasser Fahmi, Sheikh Hamza Maqbool, Sheikh Harun Saleh, and so many others, right? Why doesn't what we could do with a program like this, a software like this, is that everyone could take a section and translate it and turn it into a collaborative work.
Yep.
And within a work that would have taken 10, 15 years could take even 1 year given the proper coordination and the proper timing. And the app is actually designed. We already have the features to allow multiple contributors. You just give someone the same way that Google Docs works, where you give someone invite access. It works the exact same way.
And I'm telling you, the way to do it these days is not to make us all die for 10 years, then publish a book that I can't read because it's too long. The way to do it is to put it online, chapter by chapter, literally line by line. If a line is done, put it up, right?
Exactly.
If literally line by line. And that's the way of the world today. If anyone wants to go the old-fashioned way, so let us sit and die and become skeletons by the time the whole translation is done. Then it's got to get through editing, then printing. And then I'm going to buy it, and it's going to take shipping. And I'm going to buy it for $400, $300. And it's going to sit like a trophy in my house after 10 years because it's too big to even read by itself. But if you're really...
No one's going to buy it either, right?
No one's going to buy it. Unless you want trophies.
Exactly. You just want to put it on.
When you got snippets coming out, right? Constantly coming out. And then the most important thing, what is the use of it? The use of it is sharing, right?
Yes.
Right. This line came out from the chapter on apostasy. Send it to him because he's actually on the verge of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I've done this before. If Omar,
Yeah.
if you, I don't know if you could switch screens, but if you just look up evil, in the search.
Yeah.
So go down. It should be here. Or look up good. Actually, it might not be under evil.
Oh, it's searchable.
Yeah, it's searchable. It's completely searchable.
Ajib.
So go to Taqrib al-Wusul, where you see where it says chapter 6, good and bad. Yep, right there. So this chapter over here on good and bad is husn and qubh.
Yeah.
I believe it was Sheikh Said Foda who said that 50% or 25% or a large majority of matters in Aqidah are related to just this chapter. And the Ash'aris are incredibly misrepresented when it comes to the discussion on husn and qubh, because everyone thinks that the Ash'aris are scholars who, or like they're a school of thought that think that good and evil is solely derived from revelation. And that's not actually true. And very, very few people know it today because of the fact that there's 3 different usages of the word good and evil. And for two out of 3 of them are actually intellectually derived. And only the third one is derived by way of the divine law and by revelation. And so many people, and you see people arguing until they're blue in the face about this mas'ala, and they're completely mistaken. And there's article out there by a neo-Mu'tazili scholar on this, completely butchers the issue and makes it seem as if like these Asha'ira are completely, like about, imitation, and, they're not like scholars that use their intellect and things like that. So what you could just do is that send them something like this, and you have your citation right there. You could even copy the link that's in the URL, and it'll automatically navigate you to that particular line.
So number one, breakdown of good and evil, or good and bad, I should say, is what matches your taba or your nature or your fitrah. Number 2 is what the Sharia says. And number 3 is what reason would determine.
Yeah.
Like the example of conflict of interests, for example, in business and in charity and stuff. That's an example of determining good and bad by reason.
Right. So it would be, the first one is they call like the sifatul kamal wa nuqsan, the attributes of perfection or completion and imperfection or incompletion. So for example, you see a house that's missing windows or missing a door. I could say, well, a house should have a door, right? That's from the sifat of kamal. Or anyone could tell that lying is ugly, and anyone with an intellect can tell that lying is ugly and telling the truth is good. And so you can make that argument without necessarily having to rely on the Sharia. And the second type is what they refer to as like mula'amatul tab'i, which is like what your self likes or what the intellect leans towards. For example, you see a piece of rotting flesh.
Yep.
That rotting flesh is,
disgusting.
Your tabi'ah is going to, want to get away from it. But you see, a beautiful fragrance or something like that.
So
or
fitrah.
Your fitrah, you could say fitrah,
And
even
your
though,
taba.
your taba, because the fitrah has other connotations. I'm actually translating a risala by Sheikh Said Foda on this, because there's a lot of misconceptions about the fitrah as well. But yeah, generally you could say that, like yourself, your composure. And then the third one is the only one that is derived from the divine law, which is the actions that are blameworthy now and are going to, result in a punishment in the future, or the actions that are praiseworthy now and are going to result in a reward in the future. And I can't know that with the intellect by itself, right?
Correct.
Because there's so only that, according to the Asha'ira, only that collection of things that are good and evil, meaning actions and their consequences, are derived from revelation. Everything else is actually derived from the intellect.
Yeah.
And this gets you out of a lot of really dicey aqidah matters. And unfortunately, people just don't know these things.
And if you think about it, it's all creation, because your taba and your fitrah is created.
Right.
Is a creation. And your intellect is also Allah's created it. So it's all good and bad comes from the creator, just through 3 avenues: transmission, reason, and also we go back to the same epistemology. Transmission, that's the Sharia. Reason, we mentioned the intellect, and then the third is demonstration, which is like human reactions to things. So again, just like the sources of truth are these three sources, as-sam'a wal-basar wal-fu'ad, transmission, reason, and live demonstration, or your hawas, your sensory perception. Likewise, good and bad is determined through these three avenues too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if there's no other questions, I did want to talk about the Ramadan campaign.
All right, let's hear it.
Yeah. So yeah, just hit that support button. So this Ramadan, what we're just trying to do is firstly get the word out there. This is actually the first time that publicly, aside from Twitter, I've talked about this app. First and foremost, I just want people to use it and to take advantage of it, and for scholars to start adopting this as a platform and as a viable option for how they want to publish their works. But this Ramadan, what we're trying to do is we're trying to just get 100 supporters, 100 monthly supporters. And these support, you have different options that you could take. And the minimum is less than a cup of coffee. Back in the day, right, like 15 years ago, a cup of coffee was like $5. Yeah. Now it's less than a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is like $7 or even $8. So this is less than 1 cup of coffee a month. To be a supporter and to support a project like this. And with all of the support that we get from a project like this, it's going to go towards developing the app further, towards getting more translations out there, towards growing our repository, bringing collaborators and other scholars onto the platform, and really growing it out. And if you go to our story, you can browse through what exactly is our roadmap. We do have a product roadmap that's out there and a project roadmap that's out there. For example, one thing that we want to do is bring in a like an advising scholar whose sole job is actually just to read these texts and to review them and to curate the text that is out there and to give collaborators notes and things like that on how they can improve their text and continue going forward. And we have other, amazing features that are planned. And there's a community that's growing right now on ummaspot.com. That's our bookstore. We also have a Telegram group, but we have a special Telegram group for everyone who joins this program. And whether you pay or not, so anyone who makes an account, whether you make a free account or a paid account, no matter what, you join this group and people collaborate in this group, and you get to talk about and see what exactly is going on in the future. And I do answer questions there as well about the texts and clarifications and things like that. So I do recommend, even if you don't have the money, even if you're not able to support it, we're trying to get 100 supporters. Share it, sharhapp.com/support, or just make an account and start using it and take advantage of these resources, so that other translators, they feel as if their work is actually being read and appreciated and commented on and things like that. And that usually, like in all honesty, that's even more important than any amount of support that we get financially. What's more important is, just to make sure that the work is being taken advantage of.
This is, honestly, I have to say, a revolution, nothing less than a revolution in how the world of translation operates. And by living through this, we see the frustrations. But because Othman has the little tech ability, I've always called him the music producer back before he was a Talib Ilm. I'm saying so much about Othman's private life today. So khalas, we ruined the guy. But Othman used to come when he was still studying in high school, a student. He used to come in with like a turtleneck, a vest, a puff vest or something, and really expensive sneakers, okay? Different color glasses like Spike Lee or something. And then, so I was like, Hamza, your brother looks like a music producer, right? But he did have all these little hidden skills. This is a very important skill because by putting translation out there and operating like this, chapter by chapter, give it to me right away. We're live streaming the translator's life and his work. And we're not going to try to make this ends meet capitalistically. It's not going to work. It's too niche. The book industry is, I don't even know how it's still alive, to be honest with you. Just put it on the app so I can highlight it, screenshot it, send it to my friends, whatever. And that's how we operate. When we read something, immediately we highlight, share it with everybody. And I'm telling you, for research purposes, if we put the actual page number of the primary source that we're using, or the actual source, that'll be very useful for researchers. So that they'll know, like, okay, this is page 5 of whatever. And as you can see, he's translating like line by line. You get the Arabic and you get the English. So that shouldn't be so difficult. But this is a revolution in translation. Omar, can you change the title of this stream to A Revolution in Translation? It is a revolution in how things are translated. And I have to say, I wonder, I don't like conflict, but the old school translators might not be very happy with what you're doing.
Possible. Or inshallah, like, they are, they can collaborate and they can join this platform. And because they really have something unique to offer. Not a lot of people are doing translations anymore because of all these challenges. And a lot of them, I feel like they're tired as well. And most of the successful translators that we have today, they've gone on to become self-published. They made their own publishing company because they're sick and tired of dealing with these publishers. And the publishers, they're not doing great as well. I don't imagine there's a lot of financial incentive for these Muslim publishers anyways. They're probably not printing money. They're probably also doing it for the sake of Allah. But we really need to have some new options that are out there to revitalize interest in our written tradition. No one really has either.
I think the only way to make money on translation on books is to sell trophies. Right? Like if I'm going to the bookstore and I want to buy somebody a gift, and this is the product, right? And I want to buy, you see how beautiful this book is? Like, look at the binding, and it's a product.
Right.
It's literally a trophy that you put. Maybe you read it, maybe you don't, right? But you feel spiritual because you have it now, right? You feel you got Sufi aesthetic, as they call it, right? But that's really, if you think about, let's actually talk common sense about the logic of the actual, not the logic, but the actual practice of books.
Right.
They're beautiful things on the shelf, like really nice looking things. And that's the only way to make money off of the book world these days, is to make a book where the production is of the physical material of the book is so unique that people have to have it, and it's a great gift, right? So to give to people. So, but that's not going to work for the guy who actually wants to get into the meat and potatoes of ilm, because you're not going to go make an usul pamphlet that has a leather binding, right? And it's no one's going to give that away as a gift either, right? So therefore, you're not going to get into the sciences anyway if you're in the capitalist mindset, or you even just have to make ends meet, right? So this is the new model, and people can give what they give. It's like Wikipedia. Try to give what you can. How are you now? Let's actually try to look at. Where you were at. Actually, I want to track.
Yeah, you see, it says 7 out of 100. So since we started this, 3 additional people subscribed and became a supporter. So alhamdulillah, thanks to everyone who did that. So you could actually track the progress and see how close we are to 100 subscribers to get that goal for Ramadan. And inshallah, we're trying to reach this goal by the end of Ramadan. And that will really, really go a long way.
Someone's asking how they can contact you.
So I'll put my email here. I'll actually put both of my emails. I'll put my Safina Society one too.
The support link, by the way, is pinned in the chat for whoever wants to support.
So I just put it in the chat for whoever asked that in the YouTube chat. But if you're not on the YouTube chat, it's admin@ummaspot.com. Or you could use my first name, Othman, last name, Qureshi, @safinasociety.org.
We're at 7. We need to get it to 10 at least. All right, Othman, let's talk about, you have to work right now? You got to go and work for the state of Tennessee or what, state of Ohio or no?
Should be fine, inshallah. I'm all good.
You're good? So why don't you just hang out with us while we read Surah al-Qalam, and every once in a while we're going to check up on whether we got our Sharh App up to 10 in this revolution in translation. It really is a revolution in translation. It's the right way to do things, given the age that we're living in. And I'm all about cutting your losses and not trying to jam something. You cannot jam a business in translation. It's very time consuming. It's very unique to a number of people who could actually translate. And at the end of the day, it's not a consumer product that people are going to spend a lot of money on. You're going to have 5 Muslims excited about it, and that's it. So let's actually be practical about it and say, here, it's out there for the world, and everyone, from the good of your hearts, every time you read something, put in $5.
Yeah.
All right, sign up for the $10 sign. What's the least that someone can sign up for?
$5.
$5. I really want to get to translating at least parts of the Hashiyat al-Dasuqi on Ridda. What puts a person out of Islam? It's important. Isn't this the most important thing? Once you come into Islam, is not to exit Islam. We're reading a little bit from Surah al-Qalam, Tafsir al-Qurtubi. First of all, Surah al-Qalam is a Meccan surah. في قول الحسن وعكرمة وعطاء وجابر قال ابن عباس وقتادة من أولها إلى قوله تعالى سنسمه على الخرطوم is Meccan. And after that, up to his saying أكبر لو كانوا يعلمون is Madani. And then after that, up to يكتبون is Mecca again. And then after that, من الصالحين is Madani. And the rest of it is Meccan. Haji. I've never, you're not going to see many examples where it's Mecca and Madani mixed up like this. Usually maybe half and half or full. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. Keep in mind, the letters are pronounced and there's no idgham in them. Yeah. All right, let's get to their just talking about different qira'at. Noon lawhun min nur. Who said this? Who narrated this? فروى معاوية ابن قرة عن أبيه يرفعه إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He says Noon lawhun min nur. Ibn Kathir also mentions this in his tafsir, that Noon in the Quranic surah Noon and 29 Quranic chapters begin only with letters. 29 chapters only begin with letters. And this one begins with one letter. If you want to know what the letters are, you can remember the phrase Nassun Hakimun Lahu Sirrun Qati'. Noon, Sad, Ha, Kaf, Ya, Mim, Lam, Ha, Sin, Ra, Qaf, Alif, Ta, Ain. Nassun Hakimun Lahu Sirrun Qati'. Those are the muqatta'at, the letters. That's not including the repetitions. That's just including which letters they are. And the text, or the meaning of that little, whatever you call that, what do they call that in school? When you put all the letters into a sentence. Anyway, it says a wise text with a clear secret. Yep. And a secret, when they use the word secret in realm of Islamic scholarship, and what they mean is a benefit you can't see. It doesn't mean a secret that you can't know. It means a benefit that you cannot see. And it may be unknowable. And these letters are permanently unknowable in an absolute sense. They can be knowable with speculation. For example, Alif Lam Mim, if you look at the tafsir of Alif Lam Mim, you may see someone say, Ishara ila Allah Latif Majid. Divine, or Allah Jibreel Muhammad, but that doesn't make sense because it should be Alif Jim Mim, right? But they say it could be Allah Latifun Majid, for example. This is speculation. Speculation is not wrong as long as you recognize it's speculation. And so therefore, the muqatta'at are a sir. They are a secret. We will never know for sure what they mean. And of course, Abu al-Hasan al-Shadhili has in his awrad these letters recited as is. Hamim, 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 Kafa ya Ain Sad, because he holds deeming that he's extrapolated or understood some of the benefits of these recitations, and then their protection ultimately. And again, is he allowed to do that? Yes, it's allowed. Firstly, you're allowed to recite any verse you want. That's number one. But when a person is recognizing that he's speculating, this may be the meaning of it. Okay, what you cannot do is have jazm. Cannot be absolute. This is what it is, and that's an important understanding and distinction for people when they are studying questions of knowledge, is to realize things may be said as speculation. It doesn't mean he's saying it's absolute. And let me give you another issue with it. I hope Waqas can clip this out too. So I recently came across a question that somebody asked, where if you have one book that is a clear text from the Creator, and we have clear hadith, then why do we have different schools of thought? So yes, the thubut of the Quran, that this is the Quran, that is clear. But within the Quran, there are words and verses and ayats that can have multiple meanings. So the thubut of the Quran is qat'i. The actually existence of the Quran. Yes, we know that this is the Quran from Alif Lam Mim to Surah An-Nas. Fatiha to Nas. That we know. But that does not negate that there may be verses that have various possible implications. And in some cases, they may have opposite implications. And I'll give you a simple example. ثلاثة قروء. When Allah says, subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that a divorced woman should make tarabbus, which is waiting. ثلاثة قروء. Is the qur' the purity, or is it the blood? And that's a big difference, because that's an extra month, right? So therefore, by that, a marriage could be valid or invalid. If you differ upon that, because if we say it's 3 bloods, 3 hides, that means it's 2 months. And if we say it's 3 purities, that means it's 3 months, right? We're going from 2 to 3 months. Am I right, Uthman? Right? Do I got the math right on that? 3 hides is 2 months. 3 purities, right, is 3 months. Okay? So that would mean if a man marries a woman in the 3rd month, that marriage could be invalid in one's understanding and valid in the opposite understanding. Right? Not only will it be invalid, he can never marry her again, because that is a major sin. Major thing that Allah wants to not have is multiple fluids in the same stomach of a womb, or in the same in the woman, to confuse his lineage. If a man marries while she's in her iddah, that can confuse the lineage, right? We don't know whose kid this is. Is it the first guy or the second guy? So that's why marriage in the iddah has such a severe punishment. You can never marry this woman again. Like, Allah has made it that severe. So the punishment for that, it's so there are certain things. There's no excuse for us Muslims not to know. Any Muslim, if you recognize that you're a Muslim, you have to know the rules of marriage. It takes less than knowing the rules of how to drive. It takes more time to learn how to drive a car, which we all do, than to learn the rules of marriage and divorce. Like salah, rules of salah, you have to know these rules. So there, on one Quranic verse, it can possibly be read in 2 different ways. And that could influence the validity of a marriage. So that's why you have schools of thought, despite the fact that we have one verse on the subject and one Quran. So yes, we don't negate that we have one Quran, we recognize that. But the meanings within the verses can be interpretive or not interpretive. Okay? All right, update. We were on 7, and we need to, as we said, we وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. We're now at 9. All right, we're now at 9, and we're not leaving until we're at 10.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, we're going to get for 10, because one of the things we do here is وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Help each other on goodness and piety. This is a lot of goodness right here. Sometimes we take the GRT up, we round it off, and today we're rounding off the Sharh App's users from, what did we start the day with?
We started with 4. Alhamdulillah.
With 4, rounding it out to 10. Very simple ask from the community of viewers. And this stuff is under the chapter, they say, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. And that's also the what Sheikh al-Maghili uses and talks about when he talks about the gatherings of dhikr, which we believe is not only permissible but good. And when Imam Malik held those to be that he did not like them, that also was the correct fatwa at that time, the most correct fatwa at that time, because there was still a preservation in the city of the Prophet ﷺ of the details of how Allah is worshipped. Notice he didn't say that those things are sinful. Right? He would simply say, muhdath, don't do this, do it exactly how the Prophet did it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there was still an opportunity to preserve life and preserve ibadah the way that it was in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After that train is completely derailed, we're 1400 years after that, and even way earlier, everything derailed, and we're not in the city of Medina. The priority now is giving life to the hearts of the mu'mineen. And hence the Maliki scholars themselves, this is not my theory, this is their theory. The Maliki scholars themselves have deemed now the maqsad is different. Now we have a higher priority, which is to give life to the hearts of the believers, and hence we encourage any excuse to gather for dhikr. And we hold it to be acceptable. And we have no qualms with it, no apologies for it. And Shaykh al-Maghili says the proof of that is وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. And the people who say that it's an innovation, when they confuse this, because you can say it's a bid'ah and you can say it's makruh, no problem. We would not even disagree with that. We would not even say if someone says bid'ah makruha, no problem. It's a difference of madhabs and opinions. But the problem is when people are, in a sense, ignorant and elevate these differences to aqeedah bid'ah, the bid'ah of aqeedah, like Shia. That's a bid'ah in aqeedah. That we won't pray behind them. We won't enter their mosques. We have no business with them. But some people have mistakenly, I guess, elevated a difference of opinion on an ijtihadi matter where we're saying you're either going to get rewarded or he's saying it's discouraged. So that is bid'ah makruha. Bid'ah makruha, it's nothing. That's not a big deal. That's a difference of opinion in fiqh. Like any other difference of opinion. Like a Hanafi not eating lobster. He says it's haram. Yeah, by their speculation. So, or ijtihad, I should say. Now you hold this to be makruh. It's even less than haram, right? Even if you were to say it's haram, you don't cut ties. They have elevated it to bid'ah in aqeedah, bid'ah mufassiqah. They've elevated this mas'ala of group dhikr into bid'ah mufassiqah. That is aynul jahl. That is the biggest error in jahl ever. Okay? And it's what common people do all the time. Common folks make those mistakes. They'll elevate a difference in fiqh into a, that's a good one, Omar. Bid'ah mufassiqah. Treating such a person almost like, kind of like he's a Shia, right? He's totally deviated on an opinion.
So they say people who gather for the purpose of their...
Yeah, they treat it like bid'ah mufassiqah. So I say like, it's either a difference of opinion in fiqh or it's a bid'ah mufassiqah. Pick one, right? So, but we're not going to shy away from it, and we're not even going to accept this stuff to be in our communities, this kind of divisive thinking. And they say, oh, don't be divisive. Well, when you say no to the one who's being divisive, you're unifying. You're actually being a source of unity. We're actually a source of unity for this, because we're actually broader in what is available to be done and believed within Ahl Sunnah. And those who are going to take that divisive view, we have to flush them out and say no to them in the community. No, we're not going to accept this. We're going to call it out in public in front of everybody. All right. So Noon, this hadith says, it is a lawh, a tablet made of light. وروى ثابت البناني, the famous tabi'i Thabit al-Bunani. He's the one who says, subhanAllah, we mentioned Thabit al-Bunani. because he used to love majalis al-dhikr. And he said, you enter majlis dhikr, the person enters with a mountain of sins and leaves with a mountain of light. Majalis al-dhikr. This is the Thabit al-Bunani. And who always cites that? Al-Habib Umar's father-in-law, Habib Ubaidullah Saqqaf. Hey, Uthman, Umar, stick Uthman's picture in this too. In the thumbnail, yeah. Just take a screenshot of him smiling right now. Or take one of his engagement pictures. He just got engaged. Or maybe he's got pictures. Okay. I can't wait to see the but Uthman, what am I going to do in California? I have to now take a flight. I got to see if I can make this nikah.
Allah, bring your family.
Yeah, inshallah. All right, Thabit al-Bunani. النون الدواء وقال الحسن وقتادة وروى الوليد بن مسلم حدثنا مالك بن أنس عن سمي مولى أبي بكر عن أبي صالح السمان عن أبي هريرة قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول أول ما خلق الله القلم. The first thing that Allah created is the pen. ثم خلق النون وهي الدوات وذلك قوله تعالى النون والقلم. So الدوات, Uthman, is he talking about the ink? الدوات.
I believe so. I was looking that up actually. Imam
Yeah.
Al-Razi.
So he's saying here that the pen was created, and then what is it? The board? Well, there needs to be three things. You need a pen, you need the ink, you need a board. Unless it's doesn't need ink, it's not what we imagine. It must be something that we imagine. This is talking about the heavens here. So maybe it's the pen and the board, okay? Because that doesn't always need a ink. But a dawat, I guess, maybe is the place of writing. So Uthman, you look that up for us. And then Allah Ta'ala commanded the pen, uktub, write. It said, what shall I write? Allah says, ما كان وما هو كائن إلى يوم القيامة. What was and what will be until the day of judgment. Okay. من عمل أو أجل أو رزق أو أثر. So actions, lifespans, sustenance, effects. فجرى القلم بما هو كائن إلى يوم القيامة. And the pen wrote everything that is going to happen until the day of judgment. ثم ختم فم القلم. The opening of the pen was sealed. فلم ينطق ولا ينطق إلى يوم القيامة. And the pen will not speak a word until the day of judgment. ثم خلق الله. Then what did Allah create next? العقل, the intellect. Allah created the intellect next. فقال الجبار, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ما خلقت خلقا أعجب إلي منك. I have not created anything more impressive to me than you. وعزتي وجلالي لأكملنك في من أحببت ولأنقصنك فيما أبغضت. I will decrease you by Allah, by my majesty. I will decrease you from those whom I hate, and I will increase you in those whom I love. That's why I said yesterday in the Surah Al-Mulk videos that we did for British Muslim College that shirk leads to a lack of intelligence. And I gave a simple example. ويقولوا متى هذا الوعد وإن قالوا متى هذا الوعد وإن كنتم صادقين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد وإن كنتم صادقين. The mushrikeen say, okay, Muhammad, if you're true that there's a day of judgment, when is it going to be? Look at how stupid these people are. Because if the Prophet was to tell you a date, let's take number one. How would you verify that? That's number one. Number two, if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to tell you a date, who's the source of that date, of that piece of information? Isn't it him? Right? He's the source. So therefore, if you're accepting from him the date, then why don't you accept him that there's a day of judgment to begin with? So they don't even know how facts work, that this is a transmitted piece of information. The extra information will not verify him. Okay? What verifies him is his own personal past. Is he a liar or is he truthful? So you're asking for more information is not what's going to make the transmitter factual, acceptable or not, right? I gave the example of someone who hands you papers for a lawsuit, and they usually have to hire somebody. He's got to track you down, and he's got to know who you are. And once he affirms your identity, he hands you papers for court. The moment that envelope gets in your hand, you have to be in court, okay? Or else you're going to be in trouble. So the intelligent person, if he then says, hey, you're why am I being sued? What's in this? The guy says, I don't know. What do I care? I just need to know that this is from the court to you, right? That's all we need. Likewise, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this case of specifically the Day of Judgment, he says, "Innama ana nadhir." I'm just telling you. I'm not the author of the Day of Judgment. I'm not the author of it. I'm not the one who's going to bring it about. This is the piece of information I'm giving you. For you to ask him for more information about it is not going to verify whether he's telling the truth. What's going to verify he's telling the truth is his past, right? His behavior in the past. And that's exactly why here the people who of shirk, their minds are gone. They don't think properly. They don't think well. Do we have anything besides this mugshot? Yeah, Omar? All right, Othman, you're going to have to crack a smile. There you go. Screenshot, quick. All right. ثم قال, there we go. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أكمل الناس عقلا أطوعهم لله وأعملهم بطاعته. The greatest people in intellect are those who are the most complete in intellect, are those who are most obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we put that together? Yes, because once you determine the use of intellect is not to ask about every fiqhi ruling if it's right or wrong. That's actually a sign that you have no intellect. Why is it a sign that you have no intellect? Because these transmitted commands, these rituals, these laws of God, all you need to know is, did God actually say it? What difference does it make? Anything else? Nothing else matters, right? So if I'm driving the car and somebody tells me, oh, slow down, the speed limit here is only 25. It's not 45. For me to say, why is it only 25? Well, we're not going to get into this now. You need to go to the township to know why it's 25 or 45. All you need to know is the person who told you it's 25, are they speaking accurately or are they not? Is it accurate information or not? We're not going to get into right now why it's 25, and we're not going to, as Vance put it in the Oval Office, we're not going to litigate this in the public, right? We're not going to have a discussion right now about that. That's stupid, right? The only question you need to know is it actually 25? And say, well, I disagree. I'm speeding. I don't think it should be 25. I'm just going to, okay, keep speeding. You're stupid. You're going to get a ticket, right? And your opinion about it not being 25 is irrelevant. So that's where obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a sign of intellect, because what you're assessing, is God real? Is the Prophet real? Is the Quran real? And is God real doesn't answer you anything. As much as I love the rational proofs of the creation of the existence of a creator, doesn't answer me anything. Okay, fine, there's a creator. Do I pray? Do I not? Do I fast? Do I have to marry? Can I drink? None of that's answered, right? We just know there's a creator. All right, what we need to know is the Quran the word of Allah? Is Muhammad the prophet of Allah? Because once I get that, now I got the law. Now I know how to behave. Once I have that piece of information, I don't need to go and discuss and delve into every single detail. All I need to know is, did God actually say this in the Quran? Did the Prophet actually say this? Is that what he meant? And how are we going to do this? My mind? Your mind? How about everyone's mind? Public. Out there in the public. Let's have all the intelligent people. Oh, put that one up. Yeah, put that one up. Yeah. No, put that one up. No, that's I told you. He's a DJ. He's a music producer. Put that music producer up. Yeah, put the music producer. Yes, put that picture up. That's the one I want up. Yeah. Okay. Huh? I have no clue. Maybe from British Muslim College. But now, listen up here. So what were we saying? We were saying that I lost my track. My train of thought. What were we saying? that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, right? Then we move on. That's like when people talk to me about Hinduism or all these other philosophies. I'm operating with efficiency. The moment I see in one line of your code of your theology, there's shirk, I don't need to read the rest of the book. I'm sorry to tell you that, right? Because I'm efficient. I'm not wasting my time. Khalas, done for. The whole thing in the garbage. Don't tell me there's wisdoms. You extract the wisdoms. I got to extract the wisdoms from my book, right? But give me the wisdoms. I'll take your wisdoms and your benefits. But when it comes to religion like Hinduism, don't tell me way deep down in the theology there's monotheism. Then it's a failed monotheism, because bring it up then, right? It's failed. It's like saying a guy, he scores 2 points per game, but way deep, he does have the potential to score 25, because one time, a long time ago, he scored 25 points per game. That's irrelevant to me. What relevant is what's out there and what's being practiced regarding Hinduism. I don't care if they're in some deep tomes that there's some truth, some monotheism. Anyway, monotheism doesn't do anything for us. Where's Nubuwah? Right? Nubuwah. I hope you approve of this picture, Uthman. Let's get his approval. I think we should also get his fiance's approval, because he's already a married man. Share the screen with him so he could see. Do you approve?
Where did you even find that?
Dude, we went into the annals of Google, bros. That literally is the best picture you got on the net.
Unfortunately, I guess.
Unfortunately. Khalas, his silence is an approval. That actually looks like someone sitting in front of a computer too. Maybe you should put that one, to be honest with you. Click on that one, yeah. Because it looks like he's looking at a computer.
Why don't you just take a screenshot?
Yeah, that's a good one. That actually makes more sense, right? Because he's putting forth a revolution in translation, not a revolution in fashion, right? And this one looks good because he's clearly looking in front of a computer, and he's got a gamer chair in this one.
That's my dad's chair. That's an
that's your dad's chair?
professional chair.
A professional chair, not a gamer chair. Good. I really like this one, yeah, Uthman. So take that one so that he's a credible translator now. Yeah. Find a good one from there.
I just can't get a good shot of him unless he smiles properly now.
Just do one where he's looking at the camera is enough. So you all understand how أكمل الناس عقلا أطوعهم لله. Not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us very fundamental things on how to be intelligent. Part of intelligence is to discern facts. That Allah teaches us, إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. So epistemology, what makes a human liable is facts. And what is a fact? This whole live stream is called nothing but facts. Transmitted information, rationally deduced information, and demonstrable information. Things you can experiment with you could see it, hear it, etc. That's going to break down into two parts: absolute or speculative. That's how we discern facts. Hadith transmission, when we had to study hadith transmission, that's also going to make you sharp in how you assess what facts to believe and what to reject. And the world we live in, by the way, is so filled with uncertain information and lies, straight up lies, that everybody needs to now learn what's reliable and what's not. We know, for example, today that an image is pretty much no longer reliable information, right? If you see an image, that's not reliable. If you see, for example, an image of this studio but a different person sitting here, that's not reliable information. That's so easily to be manufactured. Very soon, video, because I'm seeing now Surah or whatever it's called, their videos are just getting so good, right? The AI videos are getting so good. Soon the video will not be reliable information. Just websites, just text on a website is the least reliable information. Text on a website, I read something on a website, that is literally the least reliable piece of information. And that's why in our websites that we're building up in fiqh and everything else, we want to cite the sources. And once you cite the sources, now people can go back to the actual books and verify them. All right, we're due now for another update. Let's see where we're at. Did we round off 10? Let me we have 11, so we did complete our goal for Sharh App. We got it to 11. Alhamdulillah, very good. Let's continue reading. وعن مجاهد نون الحوت الذي تحت الأرض السابعة. That Noon is a large sea creature that is under the seventh earth. Maybe he got that from the Jewish scriptures. I don't know. والقلم الذي كتب به الذكر, which the Quran and all of Allah's words. The Quran is Allah's words. The Torah is Allah's words. But of course, the Torah has been altered. Hey, Omar, did you find anything about ad-dawat?
Yeah, it's like inkwell or something.
The inkwell, okay. وكذا قال مقاتل ومرة الهمداني وعطاء الخرساني والسدي والكلبي إن النون هو الحوت الذي عليه الأرضون. Yes. It's 4 o'clock already? All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, huh?
I kept kicking this guy out.
How many people are here for the Umrah trip session? We have to do a recap for the Umrah trip. How many people are here?
One person. I kept kicking out like the random guy.
Yeah.
Why is it this like?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to wrap up, unfortunately. I will take 2 questions because there's only 2 people here, right? Correct? Yeah, there's only 2 people here for the Umrah trip session. So, Neelam, 1 person. Neelam, just wait a second while we take some more questions. But I do want to cite this, that Khurasani, so all of these, they said the noon is a fish upon which the earth and the heavens are the 7 earths are resting. This must be from the Jewish sources, because we don't believe that. We don't believe the earth is resting on a fish, right? And that's what they always make fun of the Christians, that you guys believe that the whole world is on the back of a turtle, right? We don't have this belief. I'm just so they may have just said that, maybe saying that the Jews say it. روى أبو ظبيان عن ابن عباس قال أول ما خلق الله القلم فجرى بما هو كائن ثم رفع بخار الماء فخلق منه السماء. The water was created and the vapor of the water made the skies. ثم خلق النون فبسط الأرض على ظهره. Then he created the noon and he put the earth on its back. فمادت الأرض فأثبتت بالجبال. The earth was flattened and set down by mountains, pegged. Mountains are like pegs. وإن الجبال لتفخر على الأرض. This is all from the Jews and Christians, what they say about the creation. It's not what we hold to be true about the creation. It's what they say about the creations. The earth is flat. It's on the back of a fish. It's pinned down by mountains.
Oh, this comes from Jewish Christians.
Yeah.
The earth is flat.
Yeah.
We've heard of the
Flat earth, yeah.
Pretty prominent.
Yep. But it would seem that a noon, ultimately, you have to say, Allahu Alam. That's it. That's the most fair thing to say is, Allah knows best what exactly is meant when Allah Ta'ala says noon. Let's take some Q&A.
So,
Yeah, Allah
Dr.
Alam
Shadee, we do have to drop off real quick.
You got to go? Okay. Well, we got Sharh App past 10, so we're very happy about that. And now feel free to head back to work, inshallah. All right. وإياكم بارك الله فيكم. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Question for you, Ya Omar. Can you text the Buraq travel folks? Okay. Yeah. What's that? Traveling tomorrow to Canada. No, just ask them, tell them how many people confirmed and how long should we wait for people, stuff like that. I'm going tomorrow to Canada at 10 in the morning. By the time I get there, it'll be 1. And then I'm leaving the next morning. Less than 24-hour trip. Yeah. Yeah, no, we don't believe that the Earth, we don't have any of this stuff, that the Earth is flat, that it's on the back of a fish. No. What is this?
When can you delay till the ship?
20 minutes. I'll take Q&A for 20 minutes. Should we avoid Imam Malik allowance for something to avoid the other madhab's prohibition of this? If you want to, yes, you can. When are you allowed to mix madhabs? We have no problem mixing the madhabs in one act, provided that it's actually restricting, not expanding. So, for example, let's say in wudu, by adding all of what every school of thought adds obligatory, add all of what every school of thought makes recommended. By doing that, that's the adding that is not a problem. And the subtract, now remove everything that is makruh in the Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi. Consider all of it makruh. Instead of just makruh in one school of thought, take them discouraged in all. Then avoid what breaks wudu in all madhabs. So that we have no problem with. So, but that makes it's a very burdensome way of living at that point. That's the mixing of madhabs that's allowed. Let's take marriage, for example. There are a few preconditions in the Maliki school, different preconditions in the Shafi school, different preconditions in the Hanafi school that make up a valid marriage. Combining them is not a problem. It's I'll take this precondition, that precondition, and this precondition, and then put them together in my own madhab. That's where you may fall into a problem, because you may end up with a valid worship or an invalid worship act. That's the problem. You may end up with an act, a marriage contract that is not valid in any of the 4 schools. So that's why we disallow, and the ulama disallow it. There's no mysticism about this. It's very logical why it's not allowed. It's not allowed because you may end up with a marriage contract that's not allowed by any madhab. So, for example, in the Maliki school, allows for the contract to be done without witnesses, but the consummation requires witnesses. So he can't take her into a room alone. They can't go into any space alone where people can be intimate unless there were witnesses. But they can contract it. So let's say, for example, dad, the wali, the girl, the man, they arrived. No one else arrived. So, let's just do it now. All right, zawajtuka ibnati, qabiltu. I have put in the past tense. I've married my daughter to you. I've accepted. Between the wali and the dad. Then the witnesses come. And they say, what happened? Khalas, we're married. We did it. Okay? But now there are witnesses. So the witnesses are required to witness that the marriage occurred in order for him to consummate with her. So they're going to need to witness it. All right, say it again. Zawajtuka ibnati qabiltu. Now that saying it again, the marriage is already affected, right? Just by that, he owes her half the mahr, half the dowry. Because the contraction of a marriage requires half the dowry. Consummation requires now the full dowry. So when they were sitting alone, they contracted the marriage. Khalas, he's due for half the dowry. He's on the hook for half the dowry. Then they're restating it is for nothing other than being able to consummate it. Now, the Hanafi school requires witnesses for the contract, but does not require the wali. Now, what if I did both? No witnesses, no wali. Then any guy and girl could just go get married secretly, right? And the contract would be valid in their eyes. But again, it's not allowed. All right, this is combining between the madhabs is allowed if we're adding obligations and prohibitions, not doing Jenga and I'll take an obligation from here, I'll take this sunnah, I'll take that, and you end up with an act of worship that no mujtahid imam had ever deemed valid. And why is that haram in our religion? Haram, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Don't take any position for which you have no knowledge. لَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Do not take a position on what is what you do not have. Do not take a position on what you do not have certainty about. Ilm here means certainty. All right, let's take some Q&A here. Maliki view on the arts, drawing, music, etc. The answer to that question is that what's forbidden to draw is to do in the arts is the sculpture that can survive. A sculpture in a manner that cannot survive, like just the head, can't survive, right? Person just his head cannot survive, is makruh. Right? So what you're looking for is life and shadow. If it can survive, that's strike one. If it has a shadow, that means it's a sculpture. That's strike two. 2 strikes make it haram. 1 strike makes it makruh. 0 strikes makes it halal. Like what? The head of a tiger. Can I draw on a piece of paper or on a t-shirt even? The head of a tiger. Yes, you can. Because it doesn't have either strike. Does it have a shadow? No, it's a drawing. And someone once asked, what if I draw the shadow? No, that's not what meant. That's not what's meant. You can draw the shadow. We meant an actual living shadow, a real shadow. So it's 3-dimensional. Is it 3-dimensional? No. Is it full body? No. Can it live? No. So that you're looking for shadow and you're looking for life. If you have neither, it's halal. And by the way, this is for adults. Kids, it's all halal. Kids can play with statues, the dolls, toys, etc. Kids can watch cartoons, all that stuff. That's all halal. Kareem Khan, if a person explicitly utters something bid'ah mufassiqa or mukaffira, then yeah, we're going to stay away from them, right? We're not going to pray behind them even. Bid'ah mukaffira and mufassiqa. We will not pray behind them even. But if they just maybe are hovering around that group, and it's not necessarily that all of them say that, then we won't judge them on that. Making dua through the wasila of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is it haram? La. At-tawassul bin Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is valid in all 4 madhabs. And Sheikh Yusuf ibn Sadiq, we have his video up on ARKVIEW. He talks about these things. It's valid in all 4 madhabs. And the logic behind it is that it's your action. Sayyid Muhammad al-Alawi al-Maliki says, we make tawassul. Tawassul means to draw near to Allah. We make tawassul by our actions. When I ask something from Allah, I have to present something. I should present something. First of all, my hands up, that's an action. My poverty towards Allah, that's an action. My dua, that's an action. And oh Allah, I prayed, I fasted, I gave sadaqah. I'm offering these actions so that you may answer my prayer. I'm also offering you my heart. Something greater than my action is my love of your messenger, my love of the ummah. That's a type of wasila. Do animals sense angels around a person? Allah knows best. It is said, I think in a reliable hadith, that the rooster senses angels and makes his noise when he sees an angel. Brother says, sometimes you just want to be a simple Muslim, but you want to be a good Muslim, but you don't want to be a simple person, and you find that in that society you're forced to either join one group or the other, and the religious people are divided severely into one group or another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that, وَأَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةٌ فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا. The earth of Allah is vast, so that you can migrate. Now let me tell you, you're going to say, oh, how your answer is for me to move. No, you can use the internet. Migrate with the internet. In other words, if you're, let's say I'm in Pakistan, The questioner is talking about Pakistan. And he's not happy with the religious landscape there. طيب, go get a Turkish scholar. Go get a Syrian scholar. Get an Arab scholar. Get an Egyptian scholar. Get an Indonesian scholar. There's scholars everywhere. Look, seek them, search them out on the internet, and you will find them. And it's very soon, we will be putting up a website, a page on safinasociety.org with details of where you can study and connections that will take you and help you get to study in those places. That's number one. Number two, ARKVIEW.org, and we continue to make it better and better and better. ARKVIEW.org. And you can get teachers there who will teach you in English online, in English. And reading Arabic books if you're in the advanced sections. Omar, what's the word on the Umrah thing? All right. Okay. What is your view on the Abbasis who followed the Mu'tazila? Al-Mu'tazila, they have a bid'ah mufassiqah. They have a number of bid'ah mufassiqah, which means that they are Muslim innovators whose salah behind them would not be acceptable. It would be sinful, but valid. So that's the level between Muslim who's believing properly upon the Sunnah and the person who's out of Islam completely, the zindiq, the heretic, is something called the innovator. The innovator, he's a Muslim, but he has rejected something that is clear in the religion. It's not well known. It may not be something well known, but it's clear. And Allah says in the Quran, وَمَن يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ. Whoever rejects Iman, his deeds are not invalid, unacceptable. وَمَن يَكْفُرْ. So now that Iman, the ulama have divided it into two categories. That which every Muslim knows, مَعْلُوم مِنَ الدِّينِ ضَرُورَةً, known in religion by necessity. The rejection of that makes you a zindiq. You're out of Islam. No Muslim can come say, I'm a Muslim, but I don't believe that there are 5 prayers a day. I believe there are 3. I believe wine is actually okay. You can't do that, right? So that's known. The second part of Iman is that which is explicit, but not known by necessity. It's something that takes a little bit of study, but it's crystal clear. The rejection of that, it will not be the same as the rejection of known in religion by necessity. The rejection of that will render a person to be, as the ulama put it, as Ibn Umar also mentioned it. He's a Muslim, yes, but his good deeds will not be accepted unless he fixes his belief. Okay? Guy keeps sending me gifts, but also he says bad things about my family. So I'm not taking these gifts. I'm not enjoying these gifts. Come on, brother, take these gifts. I'm giving you gifts. I like you. Yeah, but you're insulting my family. Oh, okay, I'll take it back. I'll delete all those posts. All right, now I'll take your gifts. So that's the concept of the bid'ah. We call that. It's also known as al-bid'ah al-mufassiqah. The bid'ah. Okay. The other category who rejects what is known in religion by necessity, they call that al-bid'ah al-mukaffirah. The bid'ah that puts you out of Islam completely. You are called a zindiq. You're worse than a kafir. The zindiq is worse than a kafir. Kafir is just out of Islam to begin with. This person is taking un-Islamic beliefs and saying this is Islam. هذه بدعة مفسقة وبدعة مكفرة. What is Safina's view on Mary, mother of Jesus? Is she a wali? Not only that, is not she the greatest of women? The Prophet ﷺ said. Some say that there's 2 hadiths. There's one hadith that says Fatima Zahra is the greatest of women. There's another hadith that said the 4 greatest women are Sayyidah Maryam, Sayyidah Asiya, Sayyidah Khadija, Sayyidah Fatima. So she's beyond wali in that sense. She's from the greatest of awliya. When I say beyond wali, I mean beyond just saying wali. She's from the greatest of women. All right. She's one of the flawless women. Yes, she could possibly sin. She's not ma'soom. We don't say she's ma'soom. She's sinless in the sense that like prophets, she cannot. No, but she was protected by Allah Ta'ala and she was complete. She has no blemish on her. She is not only complete, she's reached the highest levels of iman that are humanly possible for a non-prophet. Sayyidah Maryam. There's not even a dispute on this subject. If there is a shortage of time, she prioritizes the sunnah of Isha or Tarawih. Tarawih is a stronger sunnah. Islamic perspective on the necessity of an Islamic state in today's world. Should our focus be on establishing governance, or should we prioritize strengthening individual iman first? Governance where? What country? Name me the country to work on, and we can work on it. But someone knocking? But I think we're way ahead of ourselves to talk about the state level, the community level, the individual level. There's issues there. Salam, come on in. Who is that? Who is that, Timur? Oh, it's Soup Kitchen today. Forgot about that. Can a woman perform Umrah without a mahram? Many fuqaha said yes. Hajj and Umrah are exceptions. What are the requirements to understand Quran in Arabic and to be able to understand it correctly and interpret it rightly, says Nauman Kalakar, joining ARKVIEW.org, with Sheikh Mahdi Lak. He will take you there. Hajj, can you go see what the sisters' cars need to be moved? And move them because Hitam was busy with that call. Yeah, she can move them, but how do we do tadarru' in dua, meaning feeling desperate, while at the same time being sufficient from what we are asking for? You do tadarru' because Allah commanded you. Don't talk to Allah Ta'ala with any feeling of false sense of security. Our whole life is in His hands. It's an obligation to pray to Allah. When you pray to your Creator, it's to pray with tadarru', desperation. Not, okay, just give me a good life. Or not, I don't care. La. You have to always be desperate because our life is in His hands. Is becoming an alim online credible? Well, no, nobody's going to only do online these days. You need to mix it with physically meeting with the scholars. What does Islam think of anti-heroes, like who do good but in controversial or unorthodox ways? The answer to that is that not only is the result important for us, but also the method. The method is probably even more important. This is for Yusuf King. The method is actually more important than the results for us. There's another religion out there, we can't say who it is, where all that matters is the result, and the ends justify the means. We don't have that belief. Can a woman do a job related to her field with a full parda? Do you mean? I don't understand the question. If the employer allows it, then why not? It's up to the business. When a guy has a business, or a woman owns a business, they have the right to dictate what happens in that business, right? They have the right to dictate, and if the dictates do not match the Sharia, then we don't work with them. Simple as that. But in it's his property, right? He runs a business in his store or his office. He can do what he wants, and Allah will judge him on that. When I say it's his right, I mean it's his right by law. It's his right. You do what you want. Not by Sharia, by Allah's law. We either participate with you or not. So if he's allowing it, ahlan wa sahlan. If it's a halal job in Islam for women, yeah, you can do it. Why not? Why does Allah delay my dua? To strengthen us. He delays our dua. To test our character. To make us also not overly attached to matters of the dunya. Why? Why does He not want us overly attached? Because if you over-attach, you'll ruin your blessing. If you're overly attached to something, you actually ruin your own blessing that way. So He's actually, when He decreases your attachment, it's so that you can enjoy your blessing better. If you're too attached to something, you won't benefit from it. You can ruin it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you all, inshallah ta'ala, back on the live stream after the month of Ramadan. This was our last live stream for the month of Ramadan. I'm going to be heading to Canada tomorrow, and then to Umrah next week, and then it's Eid, and then we'll see you, it's the last 10 days, and we don't stream in the last 10 nights. So we'll see you after that. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Kalbe şiir